Hi, I'm Bella Perez Rubio, PumaPodcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka News. Balitang thinking, hindi breaking. In this episode,
our industry was one of the first to shut down and one of the last to come back. And the live entertainment industry includes everything. It includes weddings. It includes hosting events. It includes birthday parties. It includes, name it, if there's an entertainer, that falls under that umbrella. Everyone was out of a job.
world-renowned artist Lea Salonga is calling on the Philippines to do more for its pandemic-hit creative industries. Last week, in an interview on Agenda, a One News program, Lea highlighted how tough the last few years have been for creatives.
You know, there are those of us who are fortunate in that we've been able to save up and we would be able to weather a couple of years of not working. But I can't say that for a lot of other people who lived from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, and then all of a sudden there were no paychecks coming in. And these are people backstage,
makeup
artists, dancers, crew, just a lot of people who all of a sudden had nothing to depend on.
In March 2020, the pandemic shuttered all live performances, forcing audiences and creatives alike to settle for streaming. The sudden shift was so challenging that some artists chose to opt out altogether. One of them was playwright and producer Juan X, who was preparing to stage his one-act comedy, Nay, May Dala Akong Pansit, for the 2020 edition of the Play Festival, Virgin Lab Fest or VLF.
Na-cancel kaming lahat, tapos we shifted to an online format, but my team opted not to join the online version because we felt na mababawasan yung physicality ng comedy namin, so we decided to wait it out. So after 2 years, ngayon pa lang kami mas-stage, pero actually dapat 2 years ago pa to na-stage. So yun, maraming na-shutdown, maraming nawalan ng trabaho na theater people, especially the theater people na full-time theater people, no? Medyo masakit siya talaga.
Even after the return of live audiences to theaters, the pandemic continues to present challenges. X said health protocols complicated rehearsals, with actors rehearsing with their masks on, unable to see each other's facial expressions. And of course, the threat of infection is always there. There is one bright star. On July 27, the Creative Industries Development Bill lapsed into law. In addition to helping stakeholders recover from the pandemic, the measure is also intended to drive economic growth. Listen to the law's principal author, Pangasinan 4th District Representative Christopher De Venecia. He did an interview on One News in June 2021.
Our pet bill is the Creative Industries Development Bill, which will really accelerate this sector, which based on 2014 WIPO and IPO-FIL study using 2010 statistics and data. The creative industries contributed 7.34% to our GDP. So it's quite significant. And that contribution doesn't even account for freelancers. Not to mention, there are other sectors that weren't accounted for yet. For example, gastronomy. And papasok yung mga F&B natin, as well as content creation. I'm sure you've heard news that our vloggers from, Tulfo to Alex Gonzaga to Mimi, they're earning in the millions. And then now you have apps as well, like Kumu and Laika, which are also, strong revenue generators for the creative economy.
We'll pause here, but when we return, we talk about what more can be done to support Philippine creative industries. Just this year, Lea Salonga brought the country even more acclaim when she received a Time100 Impact Award.
I mean, I was a little bit, to be perfectly candid, a little shocked. And when my manager said that Time Magazine wants to honor you for their Time100 Impact Awards, my gut response was, why? Why? What did I do? What did I do in the last year? Thinking that awardees are normally recognized for what had happened in the previous year in just 365 days. That's usually how it goes. And then he said, oh, no. It's not for what you've done in the last year. It's what you've done throughout your entire career.
There's certainly much work to be done. After all, the Creative Industry Panel in the House was formed just 2 years ago in 2020, and its members definitely have growth in mind for the sector, taking their cues from countries like South Korea.
There were so many questions in our head. Parang, is this like South Korea and what they're doing? And then as we did like a deep dive into the sector, parang, oh gosh, this Filipino fascination with K-pop, K-drama, I mean, these are creative consequences of an intentional policy shift on the part of the South Korean government.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because in 1997, the South Korean president then, Kim Dae-jung, had to figure out sort of like a new growth strategy because their main economic driver, which was cheap manufacturing, was lost to them. This was during the wake of the Asian financial crisis.
Kim Dae-jung actually won the presidency a year later in 1998, but the congressman's point still stands. After championing the creative industry's development bill, Lea is now urging lawmakers and officials to go even further, throwing her support behind the idea of creating a dedicated department.
The irony to me is that we trumpet about Filipino artists being excellent and Filipino artists this, Filipino artists that, and we're so proud and yada, yada, yada. And given that, it only makes sense that given that our artists are such an export, go anywhere in the world, you will find Filipino artists doing their thing. We should have one. I mean, you've pointed it out. We should have a department.
In the same interview on One News, Lea also talked about how she auditioned for the HBO original series, Pretty Little Liars, remotely, while still in the thick of the lockdowns.
I auditioned, as actors do. I auditioned for it. I remember the date of the audition, actually, September the 1st, 2021, in my house, because we're COVIDing the COVID. And so I put my audition on videotape. I was reading the lines with my manager. Yeah. So I sent all of the raw video to him to send to the creative team over at PLL. And it was on, I think, September 9, I think. That's when my manager called and said that I had gotten the job. And then not long after that, I headed to New York and started working on the show maybe a week or so after my arrival. And I felt very welcomed and very excited and also really nervous because it had been a very long time since I'd done anything on camera.
Already, there's been quite a buzz over season 2. So what's her role going to be?
I do not yet know what my involvement is because, the folks that have watched the show will be like, so what's going to happen with these moms? Their secret is out. What's next? I don't know. So I'm just going to sit and wait and see what the creators and showrunners have in store for the next season. And I'm just really happy for everybody that's a part of the show, that the show got picked up and that it was such a fan favorite on HBO.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was produced by Kat Ventura and edited by Presh Capistrano. If you want to learn more about how local theater survived the years-long pandemic-induced hiatus, look up this Teka Teka episode titled The Curtain Rises Again for Theater. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or two. And of course, don't forget to follow Teka Teka and PumaPodcast wherever you get your podcasts. At para sa mga mahilig manood sa YouTube, PumaPodcast na rin po kami doon. Just search PumaPodcast and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.